to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
Well, the Peter Nappi, which was named after my grandfather, who a man I never met.
You never met your grandfather?
No, he passed away in the 50s.
Oh, okay. At a young age?
No, he was probably, he was born in 1887, so he was 67 years old. So,
okay.
But
was he in Italy or?
He was born in Italy, but he came to Columbus, Ohio. He went to New York first.
Okay.
And then he went to Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
So he had, it was my father's father, and my mother's family was from Mississippi. She was the oldest of 5 kids. She's an incredibly strong woman. She left home when she was 16, and she made a way for herself, and then took care of her younger sisters, and she was amazing. When she ended up in Columbus, Ohio, met my father. They got married. I was the only child. When I was 10, my father passed away fairly suddenly, heart attack. And then my mother wanted to move to Mississippi. And so we moved there that summer. Well, she ended up passing away like 8 months later.
Your mother passed away 8 months after your dad?
Yeah, it was 16 months after my dad, but 8 months after we got to Mississippi. So with the brain aneurysm. So I was the only child living in Mississippi, place I didn't know very well at all. And then I was, my grandmother and my uncle and my grandmother lived together. It's another story. But I ended up living with them. And it was, pretty much culture shock. But
in Mississippi?
Little bitty town called Waynesboro.
Okay. I
love it. We go back there quite a bit now, and it's fun. But they lived there, and it was an interesting time. I remember the day they told me my mom died, and I was outside playing with the dogs, and I just remember this vividly, that I'm like jumping around, the dogs are chasing me around, and I just think to myself, well, I'm on my own now.
Dang.
Yeah.
Man, I can't imagine. Did you, dealing with your dad's death, you said about 16 months prior, did that make it easier or worse when your mom died?
That's a good question. I was more upset when my mom died, I would say.
Because you were closer to her, or?
Probably a little closer.
Okay.
I mean, I think you're always closer probably to your mom, My dad traveled a lot for work. But I was definitely more emotional when she passed away.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say it prepared me for it.
Yeah, I don't know how you are prepared for anything like that. My dad died when I was 10 too. And still remember where I was, when someone came to tell us.
The exact words.
The exact words. And it's like just kind of burned forever. It's like a timestamp.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. I can't imagine losing both parents before you're 12 years old, though. Did you not feel like you were just out in the wind? Like, did you have your grandmother and you had some family, but still, both your parents are gone. Like, where was your structure? Where was your anchor? Like, where was it just feels to me like you would just feel like, as particularly at 12 years old, that you're just sort of out in this big bad world all by yourself. Is that how that feels?
Yeah, I definitely felt that way. Definitely did. I was, and I was, a little probably rebellious a little bit, but I was a good kid. I mean, I made good grades, played sports and all that stuff. But, my uncle was a deacon in the Baptist church there, and my grandmother went to church there, and I think that provided me some foundation. I was raised Catholic with my parents. That's why I tell people it's kind of. If you're talking about culture shock, I grew up in an Italian neighborhood family, going to, Catholic private school. My dad played golf, remember the country club, and then, 16 months later, I'm living in rural Mississippi, going to predominantly black public school, going to a Southern Baptist church that just stopped baptizing in the creek a few years before that, and eating black-eyed peas. And I remember my grandmother first get up. You gotta go out and pick peas. I was like, what? Are you crazy? I don't even know what that is. And then shelling peas. I mean, no, it was not.
That does sound like culture shock.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so sorry. I did not know you had lost both your parents at a young age.
Yeah. It's, I always had an attitude that, of gratitude, because they were amazing people, amazing parents. They loved me. They were funny. Had a lot of great experiences with them. I mean, my dad always had a smile on his face. Everybody loved him. And my mom was she was a rock. She was, I mean, there's so many funny stories about her, and she was gorgeous. I mean, she was, tall and this dark complected, and she was just classy, and she had a really tough life growing up, but she put all that behind her, she still had her Southern accent, but she was amazing. So I look back and, there's people, unfortunately the parents are still around and can't say that. And
yeah. Well, that's true. Was your mom Italian?
No.
Or your dad?
My dad was.
Your dad. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm only half, but,
okay.
But my mother had some American Indian in her, so everybody thought she looked like Sophia Loren.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she was, Sophia Loren's still alive, which
yeah,
it's unbelievable. But that component and that attitude, but also it made me who I am.
Right.
I mean, it made me tough, it made me resilient, it made me grateful. And I don't know if I would have had all that stuff if they would have been here. And I'll be with them soon. So
yeah,
sooner, later. I hope not too soon.
Yeah,
but.
well, I think that's a great way to look at it for sure. I mean, we were just talking the other day. Someone was on here. We're talking about the suffering. It's hard to think about all the suffering that goes on in the world, and yet he was talking specifically about musicians and how that there's some great songs that would not exist had it not been for the suffering those people went through. You talk about beauty from ashes, man. This happens all around the world all the time, every day. God is working his path of redemption, or his plan of redemption is at play right now. So that's true of your life too. So picking back up the story then of were we going with Peter Nappi there, or your family? Or maybe it was just intertwined?
I think it was a little bit intertwined.
Great.
But, so when my grandmother went to a nursing home when I was 16, so when I was in the junior. So I was kind of on my own after that point. And so I ended up in college. I started working in a shoe store called Tom McCann, selling shoes. And there was just something about being in the stock room and looking at everything. I was like, I kind of like this business. And I remember telling relatives that one day I want to own a shoe store, and they're like, "Well, hopefully that's a retirement gig, and you don't need the money." But I just had this vision that it was going to be this hardwood floors and leather couches and cappuccino machine, cool music playing, blah blah, and people would just kind of hang out.
Now, hold on one second. You said junior. Is this in high school or college?
College at this point, yeah.
But when did your grandmother go into the nursing
Junior
home?
in high school.
So a junior nursing home, or junior in high school, your grandma goes to the nursing home, and you're out on your own.
My uncle was still living there, so my uncle Joe, and but he and I did not see eye to eye. We love each other now, and
sure.
And he, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have become a Christian probably. But so I owe them that. But we definitely butted heads big time. But yeah,
been through a lot, man.
I talk to him about once a week, and so we have a really good relationship. And but yeah, I just had this vision of what I wanted the shoe store to look like, and then I ended up graduating from Ole Miss, got a degree in accounting. Wanted to move back to Ohio because that's what I knew. I remembered my family, and I still had a lot of my father's family was there, and that's kind of where we left off. I was there for a few years, worked in telecommunications, and moved to Atlanta and then to Nashville. But to skip over to Peter Nappi, then.
Sorry to interject, but
problem.
When did you meet your wife?
That's another story. So my wife Dana is I mean, she's just amazing. She really is. She is. We met in Nashville in a boxing class. In 2002.
Like title boxing, or
no,
it was more advanced than that?
No, it was Lee Woods Boxer Size. I think he's still around. But, but it was in Berry Hill. And old Lee, he's used to get right in your face. You gonna be a chump or a champ? But we met there, and she came in one day, and she had Ohio State Buckeyes shirt on, and I'm a huge Buckeye fan. I mean, it's hard not to be. Best team in the country. Oh
man, Mace.
Well,
let's move on.
Top 5 program.
They're not going to play this year anyway.
No, probably not. I'm about done with sports anyway. But,
yeah, for sure.
But she came in with the shirt on, and we just started talking. And I saw her out one day. And funny story is that we were shadow boxing. We got paired up, and I was like, "Hey, I'm Phillip," and she's like, "I'm Dana." And she's like, "It's happy to beat you." And then she asked me out, which she denies, but I'll ask you. So I said, hey, what are you doing tonight? She said, I don't know. Do you want to go out?
I think she did that.
I think so too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Good work.
Yeah.
I see how you positioned it there.
Yeah, that's the sales
Salesman,
skills coming through.
Yeah.
So she come to find out that I left Columbus when I was 12, and she there's one Catholic high school called Bishop Watterson, and she went to school there, and I would have went to school there, and she went to grade school with my cousins and rode the bus with them, and then my father was married before and had 3 kids. 2 boys and a girl, and the 2 boys went to this all-boys private school, Catholic school, and her father was in one of them's class and knew him. So it was kind of meant to be that we were, and so we met here, we dated for 2.5 years, and then we got married in 2015, so 15 years, and we have a beautiful, beautiful little girl, Ellie.
Yeah,
she's
wonderful.
12.